No.
Were you trying to be Pete Steele just then?
I was considering it, and then I stopped.
Oh, I cannot say anything. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Okay, so first things first.
I don't know what we're getting into. I was going to say, welcome back to Rated Radio with your hosts, Rayburn Alexander and Shane Wyndham. Rayburn, what Billboard hit did we cover this week?
We covered In a Minute by Lil Baby.
What did you think?
Reminiscent of a mixture of old Eminem and Lil Wayne, this track brings solemn beats while paying tribute to the 2000s beats that came before him. My only critique? The song comes to no chorus, and as much as I held out for one, I was very disappointed. Also, change the name, dog. Can't seem too hard with a name like Lil Baby. 4 stars.
Okay. Hot take.
Hot take, hot take.
Dang. And apologies to my metal punk fans out there, my rockabilly fans. We do have to talk about this Billboard hit before we move on to the artist.
Yes, we do.
But In a Minute by Lil Baby. There's a TikTok out there where a lady who lived through the 90s is trying her damnedest to vibe to a bunch of different modern rap tracks before ultimately giving up and going back to her comfort zone, 90s regulators. And that's where I'm at here.
Yeah.
I am not a mumble rap fan. I don't enjoy how this track is so samey that nothing changes in the chorus except that he's repeating the same rhyme. Seriously, neither the instrumental nor the vocal melodies change at all throughout this track. There's not even a refrain. The music itself is decent, but feels like something you've heard 100 times before from other rappers. 3 stars, if only for not being completely annoying and having solid production behind it.
Yeah, it just kept dragging. I mean, it was good when it was good, but I felt like it was coming to some sort of precipice and to bring us back down like in a normal chorus situation. No, the song just ends and I'm like, well, that was a fucking waste.
It was perfection for that TikTok I'm talking about because when that TikTok comes on, you hear the beat, the beat on every song she's going to, and it's like, fuck yeah, this is going to be good. Like, that's how I felt when I turned this on. Like, shit, this is going to be in my realm.
Yeah.
And then the voice starts. No.
Okay. All right.
Should we?
Yes. Move on. Roll that intro. Whatever you want to do.
I'll take it. That's fine. I can work with it. Typo negative.
Yeah.
Firstly, had you had much of any experience with these artists before now?
Nope.
And I'm guessing you crammed your listen in at the end of this week, right before coming over here, sort of thing?
I didn't do it last night. That's all I'll say.
Might have used part of the week. I didn't.
I will give you one little spoiler. After I listened to one of these artists, I listened to them several days after.
Surprising.
Mm-hmm.
First album we covered by Typo Negative was Bloody Kisses from 93. It is the original version, not any of the reissues, so this one starts out with the machine screw, just to be clear. This was my top album.
This was also my top album.
Out of the 14 tracks, I gave 9 5s.
I gave 5 5s.
My top track was torn between Christian Woman or Blood and Fire.
My top track was Christian Woman, and my runner-up was Bloody Kisses.
My brother-in-law, Sean, saying brother-in-law for the listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bloody Kisses, the title track he was in love with.
It's a good song.
It's quite slow, but if you can handle that, it is a great song. My bottom track was 30th.
My bottom track was Faye Ray, Come Out to Play.
I'm not mad at that.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack here. Think Alice in Chains meet the Beach Boys, but super gothic. There are also both punk and comedy elements in the mix. Finish all that off with a decent chunk of the album playing out like a Halloween Scary Sounds collection. Though my 5s don't make it obvious, this is a disc I gladly let play in its entirety. There's nothing quite like it, and my love of it hasn't diminished at all in the past 20 years.
Okay, so let's get this out of the way. I could do without the skits, but this is powerful, dark, and sexual. Vocals are nice and deep. The majority made me think of my either rough stuff playlist or my Halloween horrors playlist. The bass absolutely rules on this album, and it bounces in between genres while staying true to their goth roots at their core. So, Dark Side of the Womb reminds me, if you listen to it, reminds me of the beat from Lazy Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Had no idea.
Well, now you do.
Now I do.
By the way, Halloween Girl didn't like the skits. Okay.
I'm never a huge fan of put a track there or cut down the length.
There are women moaning in some of these skits.
There's
okay.
one.
Never mind. Go
but there's
ahead.
also a baby crying, Mr.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Womb.
Yeah, Dark Side of the Womb is just a baby crying.
Fay Ray has moaning. I mean, she's not, it's not sexual, but.
Yeah, but put a track there or cut down the number. Either put the skit in the track itself or put a track where the skit is. That's all I'm saying.
I like the way they cut it, and they paint such a picture.
Yeah.
Right? They're purposeful. They bring meaning. I mean, 30 If, it still does. I'm not going to knock it terribly, but.
Was that before or after the Summer Breeze cover?
It was after. It was later in the album.
Because there is a Summer Breeze, and I actually...
Seals and Crofts.
I prefer this version.
Really?
To the original.
I like both of them.
Okay. I mean, I like the original, but I think that this one was really well done.
It is.
And you don't think Summer Breeze done by a goth band, and I mean, it's weird, but it was good.
Yeah. And we didn't talk about it at all, but Black Number One is here, and that's probably why most people know this band, if they know this band.
Nope.
You didn't know?
I didn't know. The only time I had heard the band name Typo Negative was you talking about it in conversation.
Okay.
Or when we play a music guessing game and you're running it, because Typo Negative is in the game. I mean, it's in your list.
I cut off you talking earlier. Did you have anything else to say?
I was good. But yeah, I haven't no experience with Typo Negative. And I even asked my dad, like I was talking to him and I said, we're covering Misfits and Typo Negative. And he gave me his winner just off the top of his head. I didn't even know he knew who they were.
All right, well.
But now it makes sense.
It's obvious now that I'm not the only one who doesn't listen to the playlists that the other host makes.
No. I did for a little bit, but then, dude, you put all of yours in one. I don't know what I'm listening to.
You just go to the end.
I know, but if I want to go back and listen, I'm kind of shit out of luck. I created a folder.
To be fair, and I'm sorry, I didn't want to have 8,000 playlists in my account.
Oh, I do.
But to be fair, you used to be able to search the name of the song. So you could search for the first song and then like clear the search, and it would show you where you were in the playlist, and you could just move forward.
Yeah,
through the playlist. That's kind of gone now.
That would be easy.
If you turn off shuffle, you can still pull down and search for the song, and then just let it play forward. Whatever.
I just now figured out that you could do folders in Spotify because I didn't know that. So I put all of my lists in a folder for podcast top list or whatever. Dude, cuts down my scrolling time like significantly.
Well, there you go. The next album we covered was October Rust from 1996. This was my middle album.
This was also my middle album.
Out of the 15 tracks, I gave 11 fives.
I gave 4 fives.
My top track was Love You to Death, but Wolf Moon is right up there too.
My top track is Die With Me. I fucking love that song. And the Christian Woman Die With Me was on repeat for probably a solid 3 days after listening to this.
Raven seems to be giving away her game here, but that's cool. My bottom track was Bad Ground.
My bottom track was Cinnamon Girl.
Of everything?
Yes.
Man, it's not reflective of this artist in general, but skit-wise, like, I have a rating of a 1 at the front of this album and a rating of a 1 at the very end.
I do too.
Cinnamon Girl?
I do too. I didn't pick the skits because I'm like, that's a given. I'm obviously going to pick a skit. So I'm like, what track?
Okay, you're not looking at a lowest rating and picking something between among those. Okay,
no, not really. Because I'm finding that's not really fair because we all know that I'm not a fan of skits.
Cinnamon Girl is the shit, by the way.
It's taking away the value of the songs that are there. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to pick a track. But yes, started with 1, ended with 1. Exactly the same.
Apart from the weak skits, this album is much more romantically focused, reminiscent of the group Him meeting The Cure, or even Coal Chamber during the chamber music era. I don't think all the fives are quite as strong as on Bloody Kisses, and much of this feels like more of the same, but it's atmospheric in the extreme, and maybe easier for newcomers to take on than its predecessor.
This is psychedelic and dark. a bit more emotional, like Shane said. If Vlad the Impaler was a sexy rock star, this would be it. First Kermit the Frog in the last episode, now Vlad the Impaler.
I'm going to move right along.
Bigger and more symphonic, and I love the feeling that this album invokes.
There was more. I apologize.
Was more.
The last album, go ahead.
I said I wasn't going to let you cut me off, but then you just cut me off.
The last album that we covered was World Coming Down from 1999. Pains me to say it, but this was my bottom album.
This was also my bottom album.
Out of the 13 tracks, I gave 8 5s.
I gave 2 5s.
My top track was definitively Creepy Green Light.
My top track was Everything Dies.
I like that song a lot. A lot.
It's good. I almost said it when I was like the songs that I had on repeat, but I was like, I don't want to give away. We haven't talked about the next album.
My bottom track was Skip It.
My bottom track was Pareto Blaze.
You don't like Pareto Blaze? All right. Maybe it's just my familiarity. I don't know.
Maybe.
Though still very much typo negative, this disc doesn't feel nearly as derivative of Bloody Kisses as October Rust did. It's much more rock forward with an emphasis on guitar riffing and a style that's reminiscent of Pantera's slower tracks. This one also doesn't faceplant on the skits, though Bloody Kisses still did them better. As much as I like the slight difference in approach, I miss the keyboards being anything more than layering for the sake of mood. It's livelier than their other albums and quite good, but I prefer the others we covered.
It seems like they've gotten a little bit more in touch with their goth sound, kind of reminiscent of Bloody Kisses. But like you said, there are skits here, but they were done better on Bloody Kisses, in my opinion. Kind of boring, and seems like it's a little bit of an afterthought or B-side material. It's definitely not as strong as Bloody Kisses or October Rust, in my opinion.
Worth mentioning that last album had a Beatles medley track at the very end. Yeah. I wanted to hate that song, but I don't. I gave it a 5.
I say that I like the Beatles, and apparently I'm Beatles girl.
Well, you're more into them than I am. That makes you Beatles girl.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm sure we could find people out there who are bigger fans of the Beatles.
I can introduce them to you if you would like.
That's
me
okay.
To.
I could live without actually knowing that bit of trivia about anyone, so it's all good.
Well, let's get back to typo negative. Similar sounding artists for me: Marilyn Manson, Black Sabbath, The Cure, The Doors, Nightwish, and Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Worth pointing out that the Beach Boys reference I made earlier, it's the way they harmonize, and the sound never goes away from that goth thing they have going on. Mm-hmm. So it's not actual Beach Boys that you're hearing. It's just like a stylistic similarity thing.
It caught me completely off guard when you said Beach Boys. I was like, whoa. But yeah, I can see it a little bit in the harmonizing.
Their keyboardist is way underappreciated. Had to say it.
Yeah.
The music makes me feel like I'm partying with the goth kids from South Park.
Okay. And the music makes me feel like I'm walking the boardwalk in the Lost Boys movie.
This group loved packing their albums to the absolute max allotment of time a single disc would hold. Like, they are right there at the threshold, seconds left on some of these albums before they would completely run out of space.
Yeah.
Peter Steele's vocals always made me think of what you'd get if the Crash Test Dummies vocalist was turned into a vampire. These guys were respectable artists, but so self-deprecating that the back of Bloody Kisses read, "Don't mistake lack of talent for genius." I never could help but feel like that was directed at some other group, though, because typo negative, though seriously niche, is undeniably brilliant.
They cite their main influences as being Black Sabbath and the Beatles. Pete Steele, who is the lead singer, wouldn't quit his job at the Parks Department to tour nationally for Bloody Kisses. I just thought that was so funny that he worked for the Parks Department. Steele also signed the contracts with Roadrunner Records with a mixture of his own blood and semen. So if you ever get your hands on those records, sorry about your life.
By the way, who thought, because this is the second time we've had references to that in the show.
I think we talked about it with Kiss. Kiss signed.
And it's part of a...
Or did their album...
It's part of a Metallica album cover, I think, right? Load or Reload or something. Blood and semen mixture. It's just never occurred to me to be like, here's some blood, here's some semen. It's wild.
It's the most rock and roll thing to do at the time, I guess. And they were heavily inspired by the resurgence of the vampire chic movement that came with releases such as like the vampire movies at the time. So Interview with a Vampire, Interview with the Vampire. I don't know. Apparently there's a Mandela effect on what the title actually is.
I love that. reference, by the way. The Mandela effect. It's just a way of showing that our brains compartmentalize and it makes us feel stupid.
Berenstain Bears.
Because our memory is imperfect and we don't want to accept it. So clearly we have to create
this alternate reality where things actually happened.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
That's it.
Okay, well, that's
Blood
all
and
I
semen,
had to.
Man. Blood and semen.
Loved Typo Negative. Let's take a break.
All right, so moving on to our top song lists, which was
skating rink songs.
And my selection was Hollywood Swingin' by Kool and the Gang. While my big fat ass seems to be roller challenged until I can get into a groove after getting used to the wheels beneath my feet, usually taking about 2 or so hours. My latest trip to the Arlington Stadium proved to be a bit more eventful than the usual fuckery that follows me. I had requested this song to the DJ when, amongst all the fun that was being had, my sister began to have a focal seizure, probably due from overstimulation. In that moment, to save my sister from the impossible injury and embarrassment that followed, my brother and I wrapped our arms around her, holding her up until it passed, and we could remove her from further episodes. Needless to say, I never got to roll bounce to my selection, but watching us come together without so much as a second thought was something that only pure love could endure.
Roll bounce.
You ever see that movie?
No.
It's a good movie. Starring Bow Wow and Nick Cannon.
Oh, it sounds up my alley
it's
for
awesome.
sure.
It's got good music.
I went with Friends by Houdini. I loved roller skating to this track when I was young, and I had an obsessive tendency, not to sound like my co-host here, but to request the Spinning Wheels DJ play this every single time I was at the skating rink. It got so common that I eventually noticed his tendency to play this directly after the speed skaters were done flying around to Van Halen's Jump, hence its placement in my playlist, a golden opportunity missed by the Stranger Things roller rink opener, by the way. He must have gotten a kick out of my continued asking in spite of the fact it was probably a pre-planned part of his set, because he never asked me to stop bugging him about it. Short of this is that if you hung around me as a kid and this song makes you think of skating, you're welcome.
And I realized Shane and I had repeat offenders on both of our lists because you had to share your list with me. My list was already created.
Yeah.
You can timestamp it.
She straight told me to send her stuff ahead of time, and it just immediately had me thinking, okay, she's in panic mode. She's trying to find some good songs.
No, it was easy. There's 30 on my list, but we both lived through the 90s.
You think I'm serious. That's why I get a kick out of this.
I'm just saying.
All right, let's go talk about Misfits.
Yes, please.
Those are great playlists. Definitely go listen to those online because it's a nostalgia hit for sure.
And Shane's a dumbass. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, everyone knows that.
Mm-hmm. That would be my big fat ass. Here's my strut. Do. Strut my way out. Did you get that new TikTok I sent you of the dogs in Sling Blade?
Yeah, I actually watched that one.
You did?
Yeah.
Yeah, a dog. Looks just like Carl.
That's a good one. I think I sent it to Corey. And I don't ever send TikToks to anybody, but it's Sling Blade, and it was pretty well done. Yeah. So, apologies straight out of the gate here, because the first album we covered is not on Spotify.
Nope.
You have to go to YouTube to hear it. I think that's the case with a lot of their early work, which I will
That seems weird, though.
Yeah.
That it's their most known album, right?
I think they're different labels, and good God, bear with me. Okay, maybe don't bear with me. I don't know.
Shane doesn't know what he's doing. Tell us about Walk Among Us, Shane. Here's my strut. Do. Strut my way on over you. You like my strut? I like yours too. Do. What are you doing over there?
I was trying to read because we've already established I'm kind of blank today, so I'm struggling to remember. My eyes fucked up.
You're struggling to read your shit. I'm stuttering. We're having a day.
So the first album we covered was Walk Among Us from 1982. This was my top album.
This was my bottom album.
Out of the 13 tracks, I gave 11 fives.
I gave 0 5s.
hold on. Punk girl, right? And is
I'm
that
not punk girl. We have established that apparently I am not.
Okay.
I'm more of an alternative emo girl. If we've learned anything by the Clash episode.
I just like to dig that knife in a little further. And I apologize for my daughter screaming in the background. My top track was a toss-up between Astro Zombies and 20 Eyes.
My top track was Vampira or Vampira, however you pronounce.
Bottom track was Mommy, Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight? Live.
My bottom track was The Devil's Whorehouse.
Chorale style, be-real horror punk. This shit is wacky, melodious, simple yet strangely complex, energetic, and goth. Fans of the Ramones or early AFI will be right at home with this. While its vibe is one I love to catch, it isn't for everyone.
I am everyone.
The vocals are sometimes muddy and the production is super raw, but this darkly funny terror coaster was one I quite enjoyed.
For me, this was unpolished, fast-paced punk. You really have to focus on the vocals to understand the lyrics. All songs kind of run together and a bit repetitive, but that could be just a product of the time. Seems the farther back you go, the more repetitive songs seem to get.
So the next album we covered was American Psycho from 1997. This was my bottom album.
This was my middle album.
Out of the 18 tracks, I gave 9 5s.
I gave 2 5s.
My top track was Hate the Living, Love the Dead.
My top track was Don't Open Till Doomsday, which was the last track on the, second to last track on the album, I think.
Did not give that one a 5.
All right.
Bottom track was Abominable Dr. Phibes.
And my bottom track was From Hell They Came.
This album leans heavier into the sci-fi rockabilly tendencies of the previous one. I somewhat appreciate the more solid structure, but it has 2 sizable drawbacks. The new vocalist rarely moves me, and the instrumentals rely too heavily on a flat bass line. There's too much samey power chord strumming alongside uninspired drumming. That's what I mean anyway. This did remind me at times of AFI's Shut Your Mouth album, but it just never came together the same way.
Vocal stylings are switched up a bit here. Repetitive, but still catchy. Fast-paced and pretty structured as opposed to the chaos of other punk bands like The Clash. Songs are kept short, which, when I'm listening to punk, I can't appreciate.
Polar opposite, by the way, of length of songs.
Oh, with Clash as being super long and...
Typo
okay.
Negative versus Misfits.
Yeah.
It's a very different...
These albums were a very quick listen.
Yes.
Yeah.
The last album we covered was Famous Monsters from 1999. This was my middle album.
This was my top album.
Out of the 18 tracks, I gave 11 5s.
I gave 3 5s.
My top track was Saturday Night, but Scarecrow Man, it gets me pumped though.
Saturday Night was also my top, so I will give you that.
Bottom track was Kong Unleashed.
My bottom track was Kong at the Gates, so yours was the last track, mine was the first.
I initially wrote Kong at the Gates, and then I went back and listened to them both side by side, and I was like, no, actually, Kong at the Gates kind of does exactly what the last one does. I see that it's a continuation, but...
They like to prank you, Misfits does.
Yeah.
Was it Misfits that had just Static? I think it was on the second album, the Static, and it was like... Oh, we were just playing a little joke on you.
You're thinking of Typo Negative.
Oh, okay. Well, they both kind of do that. Anyway. Okay.
This album's much more musically interesting and diverse than American Psycho. Graves' vocals are also much more listenable this time around. It's got its share of near misses and filler, but it also has some of the band's strongest tracks. It may not be quite as much of a thrill as Walk Among Us, but it comes close, generally getting better the further into the disc you get. Think Kiss meets Motorhead meets White Zombie, one you could easily let play without skipping tracks.
This is more sci-fi driven. Vocals on Forbidden Zone are definitely preferred for my taste. This is more evolved, sounds a little bit more traditional punk, but it seems like they're transitioning more into the heavy metal sounds of the time as well.
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Music makes me feel like I'm engrossed in a brutal and fun or funny horror meets sci-fi movie. Basically, what's the show? It's Mystery Science Theater, right?
Okay, yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that, but you throw in like Metalocalypse. Like this is just, it's brutal, but it's fun.
I got like Mars Attacks meets, I don't know, like True Blood.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially towards the end there, it's a little more romantic in places, right?
The music makes me feel like I'm 13 again playing Tony Hawk's Underground. This is the exact type of music that would be on like the little stations within the game.
Mm-hmm.
Misfits, I know for a fact, definitely had a couple songs on there. So it just took me back to being 13 again.
Okay, I can't confirm that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
While I went into this listen hoping to find more songs like Saturday Night, in essence, Punk meets The Cure, I still found a lot I'll be coming back to. The idea of writing songs about old horror sci-fi films isn't usually executed all that deeply, and definitely isn't something I'll always be in the mood for, but you'd be nuts to write this group off as a result of that. There's so much more here than you might expect. At least half of the time, they're every bit as iconic as their album art.
Some similar sounding artists for me would be The Clash, Billy Idol, Black Sabbath, and the Dead Kennedys. Another couple of notes that I want to add in here. Misfits got their name from Marilyn Monroe's final film. Their vinyl records are some of the most sought after collectibles and have come with some serious cash spent on them. So if you're a collector and you're looking for a high priced vinyl and you're a fan of punk music, Misfits definitely is for you. They also disbanded in 83, where the lead singer Glenn Danzig formed Samhain, and later a solo band called Danzig. And their fans are often called Fiends, hence Fiend Club, I think that's on the second album.
Danzig is awesome, by the way. I mean, what I have always loved about Misfits, the known factor for me has always been Saturday Night. Mm-hmm. That's my go-to track. That's a different vocalist. You're talking the early 80s albums. The reason you don't see much music by this group is Danzig left, and then they had this huge legal battle for a long time where the rest of the group was trying to use the name and make more music. And clearly they eventually won. Yeah, but Danzig as the original vocalist, I really, really love his work.
Yeah.
I love hearing him in that raw. It's definitely not polished. You were right about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I did want to blame some of that on the fact that we were listening to it on YouTube and you're hearing a lot of compression or whatnot, but you can tell.
Yeah.
Like that's how that music is supposed to sound. And I would love to have Walk Among Us on vinyl.
Yeah.
I don't say that much. You know what I mean? Like It has that. Are they in her fucking room right now partying?
It's fine. You'd love to have it on vinyl.
Yeah, it has that warm fuzz to the recording that I'm looking for, but it's also this high energy spin.
Yeah. That's what people don't understand about like owning vinyl. And you either have to like really love that unpolished sort of crackle of the original sound on vinyl or completely hate it. Like I know people that completely hate it. And when you find a good record that has that, it feels authentic in a way.
Musically, I always think about lighting.
Okay.
So different types of music, like the stuff that I like to listen to, it's a warm light.
Mm-hmm.
Like your yellow hues, not really yellow, but it's got some...
The light in front of your fireplace.
Yes.
You love that light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Versus those, pop tends to be that harsh office setting
bright,
light, Yeah. What are
bright
those?
In your fluorescent?
Fluorescence, yeah. But vinyl music, no matter what, you're going to get that candlelight effect, the flame effect.
It's warmer, it's comfier, Yeah, I know what you mean.
So if you're not getting it, that's the conclusion I've come to. I think that's why people love it, no matter what.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't necessarily want to read to it.
Yeah.
But
puts you to sleep.
It's good. So who won for you, Rayburn?
I think it's pretty easy to figure out. Type O Negative. And I will be listening to them more.
But who won for me?
I'm going to say Type O Negative.
It was Misfits.
Really?
They had more fives. What I will say is Type O Negative's songs are like 4 times as long as the Misfits tracks.
Misfits has longer albums, though.
Yeah, they had more songs, and I do feel like I will come back to Type O Negative more routinely. Mm-hmm. But with Misfits, I really do feel like I discovered something that I thoroughly enjoy here.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm comparing early AFI, which I know a lot of people out there are going to hate that comparison because it doesn't do the Misfits justice. Mm-hmm. I know that's where you are in your head, and I apologize. But early AFI was kind of my, awakening for punk, and it's early AFI, not the stuff that you heard on the radio. And
yeah. No, we covered
2000s.
Their first album.
No, we did not.
I thought we did. We covered an album where they were more punk. That's for sure. I do remember that.
We have 3 or 4 albums before where we started with AFI. And
no
an EP.
Fucking way.
Oh, yeah. And it's all over the map, but you can definitely tell in the early days they were inspired by Misfits. That is completely obvious.
Well, the way you feel now discovering Misfits is the way I feel about Typo Negative.
Good.
Like, I'm glad that we're able to both walk away with
we
reward
took something out of
a
this,
little bit. Yeah. So yeah, and just in time for Halloween, like I've been pulling out the. I wish I could like listen to it all the time, but I feel like I would get like severely judged. Music like that.
A typo?
Yeah, or like the Mansons or the Zombies, or just that darker type of music. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm wearing an Easy Bake Coven shirt, and my nails are black right now, but I definitely feel like I would wear shit more like this if I would automatically get judged by people.
Okay, so maybe you lean goth, not punk.
Maybe.
And one thing that I really, really liked about the Misfits is they were so much more than punk. Mm-hmm. Like the rockabilly comes through in places you're not anticipating it. And the song structures, they're just so to the point.
And I think that's why I preferred, like I made the Clash, like not only the rockabilly because of the Clash, like there's similarities there. But I made the knock about the Clashes because some of their songs can get a little crazy, a little chaotic. But with Misfits, it's just like, boom. There is that point that I appreciated a little bit more than I did with the Clash. I don't hate the Clash, but sometimes it gets a little hard to follow.
Man.
I know. We're not going to get into it.
One of the interesting things about the show so far for me has definitely been knowing more of those two groups that you just mentioned, like Misfits and the Clash. It's really opened up this avenue of music that I didn't appreciate as much as I knew I probably would. Yeah. I just haven't gone down that rabbit hole because I tend to be sad bastard instead of like, let's fucking rock. You know what I mean?
You just want to flip a table and punch a hole through the wall.
It's so spectacular. Anyway, this was a great week. I feel like this season has been great so far. And we are moving right along to the next episode, which...
By the way, happy late birthday to both of us. Because... we both celebrated. I love that we have a birthday in the same month.
Do you?
It makes it easy to remember.
Yeah, you share a birthday with somebody else that I know. And it's always really easy for me to remember. Therefore.
Oh, thanks.
I think I would have struggled otherwise.
Nice. Awesome.
I don't mean that in a negative way.
What's coming up for the next episode?
Oh, well, we have a guest. And that will be my brother-in-law, Joseph. You know him from most of the early Banter Bar days. He is still around at times.
And the Flaw episode of Rated Radio. I think he's only been on once, right?
I wanted to say he's been on twice.
I can't remember what was the other one we covered, but Flaw was definitely the first one.
Yeah, I told you, I'm blank. I'm doing a lot of reading today, and I'm not trying to do much venturing out into my brain because my brain's not working the way it should today. It's been a long week.
Well, Joseph's going to be on next episode, so it's about to get a whole lot better.
And we are covering Alice in Chains. That's why he's coming on. That's one of his top 10 artists. That's also one of our cousin Dawson's top 10 artists. And per Joseph's request, he actually made me rework my lists. He came over at one point and he wanted to know who had certain matchups.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Days of the New.
Never even fucking heard of them.
I get... the closest sound comparison, I think, to what you get from Alice in Chains is that hit by Days of the New. So we're going to put them head to head and see what happens. But albums we're covering by Alice in Chains, Facelift from 1990, Dirt from 92, and the self-titled from 95. As far as Days of the New go, they're all self-titled. So we're covering the Yellow album from 97, the Green album from 99, and the Red album from 2001. We will see you in a month for that.
Yay!
Aren't you super excited?
I'm so excited.
I feel like the next episode might be one that you don't really enjoy.
I feel like Joseph's going to air his musical grievances in person with me, and it's going to be interesting. So tune into the next episode.
I'm always curious when we have a guest coming on to talk about an artist. Not what they love, because that's obvious that they love the artist. I want to hear about the things that they don't like as much.
Yeah, because we already know going into it that they love this artist, and they're gonna think back to any episode that we've done where we've gotten to pick, like Panic at the Disco. Of course, I rant and rave about Panic at the Disco, but It wasn't all good for me.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to critique your own favorite artists a little bit. Kind of humanizes them in a way.
Yeah, learning like what stage of the recordings they appreciated the most. You know, which vocalist, like with your dad, which vocalist for Van Halen was.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. Hit up our playlist on Spotify, visit our merch shop, share our show with your friends, come find us on social media to let us know what you think. Subscribe if you want some bonus episodes. And until next time, fill your world with music.
And don't be afraid to be a misfit. We like the Misfits.
I mean, technically you like Type O Negative better.
Fucking cut it, Shane.